Yo, yo, what's up? So, I've been thinking a lot more about things with religion and how it actually makes you complacent. But not only that, why do people think that, like humans, think that there needs to be such important, an importance on their life? You really think about it, and I don't mean this to bring anyone down because I do think that humans are amazing. We have great capabilities and we are important to ourselves, but I think that um, this major placement of importance on the self actually makes it to where we come up with these things like religions and things to make us feel better about the afterlife and making ourselves feel immortal, which in my head would make you feel because of that would make you more complacent. But the reason why I think we do or why we do that is because of the self-preservation. It's really important for us to preserve the self, obviously, because if you don't preserve the self, then you die. But that's like contradictory to people's whole existence, right? You exist to survive and thrive and to reproduce, basically, as a human, just like any other animal, right? So, and obviously, there's a difference between humans and animals, but does that justify do the differences between humans and animals justify our need for a higher existence or a reason why we exist? Is the reason why we exist something much higher than just to have fun and to live like all other animals? And my answer to that question would probably be no. And the reason why it's no is because do only humans deserve to go to heaven, and do only humans deserve these things that we view as more important and like a higher status or higher state of being? And I would say no as well on that topic too, because if if humans are so great, then why can't we not even get our diet correct? Why are we a massive blob of just moving and experiencing things and believing things without a critical process of thought, right? Um, but the main thing that I really want people to get away from this video is to think about why do we have to have some grandiose higher existence for humans? Like, why do humans have to be this important thing? You have to have like an important mission, and is that mission even really important? So I think about this more too, with some people that are closer to me and my family and people that I know, and just the general society. When people talk about, in particular, talking about work, and they talk about how, oh, well, I work, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and they make it and it's like sound like it's something that is a big deal. But I don't even understand. Like, to me, when someone says that, I'm like, why is that even a big deal? It's almost like it's just a default state of being of, oh, well, because I work 60, 70 hours a week, I'm just better, which to me comes definitely from a place of insecurity. That's like the same thing with like if someone has like a nice car and they look down upon someone who has a crappy car, or they have a nice house and they look down upon someone who has a crappy house. But if you believe that things that are materialistic and material things are going to bring you happiness, I just got to tell you, you're really you're really lost. And if you're someone who thinks that because you work a lot and you work real hard, and oh, because I work so hard, I deserve this and whatever. I know a lot of people who are very unhealthy and sick and miserable. They just don't want to admit it, I feel like, most of the time, because of how much stress they have from work and how much they uh, go to work and how difficult their job actually is. And why is that something to be proud of, in my opinion? Like, why would I be gloating to other people about how miserable I am, I guess. Which I know what they're doing is they're trying to gloat about the money that they make and things like that, and they're trying to show how much of a better person they are because they work. But working doesn't make you a better person. If good and bad even existed, or being a better person even existed, being a better person would be based off of your personality and who you are. If you work hard, you make a lot of money, you got a mansion, and you drive a Ferrari, but you act like a shitty person to other people, uh, okay. Yeah. So, anyways, but like I said, I don't really believe in good and bad, anyways. But I do think a lot of people don't want to be around people just in general like that. I think it's pretty normal to not be around people who are like that, who are just kind of crappy people. But it's a very um, servant mentality. It's not a leader mentality to constantly be working all the time. Um, and you're really not being free, because typically, this is another thing too, typically when people end up working more and more and more, they actually end up spending more as well too. So just because someone makes 100 grand a year versus someone who makes 30 grand a year, the person who actually makes 30 grand a year, if they're very frugal and they, share a house with someone, they have like a friend or a roommate or whatever, and they share a house with, um, and versus the person who has a house that they're making a house payment on and whatever else. So yeah, they might be investing in the house in the long run, but honestly, the person who has 30 grand could actually end up being rich, or make more money in the long run if they spent their money correctly and saved and invested properly and whatever. But that's not really the point of what I'm trying to say here. Is it doesn't really matter about how much money you make, because I would say it matters more how you spend your money. But money doesn't exist anything. It's not really something that you should strive for, and it's something that is kind of sad to really put a emphasis on and to really like want badly. It's not really something that's important, but within society it's made important because we have to have money to do anything, right? So the important things are like having food, having your family and loving them and being with them, right? And having a family in general, like making one. Um, but there's such this emphasis on money because money is the like in between bartering for, it's like the exchange, right? That you're able to get these things that are actually important. So, um, being someone who's more of like a go-getter, or someone who is working towards something, I would say can be attractive to the opposite sex in a certain way, but it's pretty much only the only thing that's really important is basically being attractive to the opposite sex at the end of the day, which is like very black pilled. But yeah, anyways, I kind of forgot exactly where we were going with this. But yeah, I don't really know if there needs to be, like I said in the beginning, um, I think people put a lot of importance on things that are very unimportant, and life is much more simple than a lot of people think it is, and it doesn't need to be something that's very um, chaotic and complicated. And I think we make things very dramatic, but I think that TV is actually a pretty big contribution to that, in the media and things like that, because it makes you very dramatic and makes everything dramatic. And oh, I got to be entertained with drama, and everything needs to in my life needs to be super dramatic and things like that. But really, um, if people out in nature don't have time for drama. And to be honest, they're trying to survive, they're trying to live their life. They don't have this extra BS that they have to deal with in life that, you know, will cause them to be distracted, and they don't need to be worrying about things that are unimportant like that. So, yeah, it's really difficult, but people need to just figure out what's important to them in life, and they need to figure out it quick, I would say. But they need to understand that life is a lot more simple than they might believe it to be. Yeah, and speaking a little bit more on what's important in life and not being distracted, with the soccer cup, the World Cup that we just had, Argentina won, I believe. I'm not sure, honestly. I just see it like everywhere, and people in blue and white freaking out wherever, because, yeah, I'm assuming Argentina won that. So, but, um, yeah, there's a lot of things with sports and video games, good versus bad, as in, like, the Church of Satan and Christians and all these things that are terrible happening in the world, power outages, food issues, and supply chain issues, and all these things like that. But really, at the end of the day, a lot of these things are just, well, first off, some of them might not even be as true as they're overly exaggerated a lot of the times. But not only that, there's just a lot of distractions from what's truly going to make people happy in life and what's actually the meaning of life, which, like I said, not that there needs to be a meaning to life, but the meaning of life, I would say, essentially is having a family and love and things like that, and thriving and surviving and eating good food, which is what we eat out in nature, raw meat, things like that. But um, yeah, so there doesn't necessarily need to have a meaning. Basically, the meaning of life is whatever you make the meaning, essentially. Um, but there's things like these sports. Um, I can't really express, and I feel kind of terrible about saying this because there's a lot of people that I know that are really into the sports scene. Um, but these guys, when I hear them sometimes talking, and like even my friends, and I kind of feel crappy for saying this just because I'm like kind of putting them down, but you really have to understand that if you care this much about LeBron James and his shooting averages this, and this, and I know the stats for him in the last game, and he did this in the game before, and then he's projected for this game to do this in order to win. They have to do that, and they know all these numbers, all these stats for the whole season. They know all the guys' names on the Clippers, on the Kings, on the whatever, the Grizzly Bears, the freaking um, the freaking the butt of a freaking baboon, you know what I mean? Team, whatever. But it's just like these people, you have to understand that if you really care this much about sports and celebrities and all these people who, these things are very trivial and they don't matter at all, but you waste all of this cognitive energy on remembering these things, and even playing video games or other distractions, things like that. You guys, I think it's natural to have fun and to be entertained. I think that's why a lot of people get into it. But no one, like, when I, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But when I hear people talk about these, they're like, oh yeah, this guy from yeah, the cornerback from the Bears and blah blah blah, and he did this and his stats are like that. Oh, but no, like this guy is way better, and they're just going back and forth and arguing about it. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, who gives a crap, bro? Like, honestly, like, who really, like, what? How useful is that information to your life? And I get it. Like I said, life is about having fun, and it's maybe that's the reason why people are so into it much more than other things, because things like finances and whatever are boring. But it's like, it's just, there's so many things that are wrong in our society that you need to understand and you need to figure out and you need to get through. In my opinion, you don't need to do anything, but it's really important to keeping you healthy and things like that. But they're just people, the masses, the people are so distracted by these little things that matter not much at all, and it's just kind of crazy to me. So sorry, that's kind of like a little bit of a rant there. Um, but yeah, definitely in society they want to keep us separate. They want to keep us not liking each other too. They want to keep the hate going around, which is why I try to. A big motto that I have is basically just worry about yourself. If everyone worried about themselves and worried about what made them happy and focused on that only, which I guess I kind of just wasn't doing there, talking crap about people and worrying about sports and athletes and things like that. But I mean, whatever. You do whatever you want, you know what I mean? But to me, it's just like, bro, if everyone is focused on what they were doing, just worry about their own crap, then we wouldn't have issues. And like, why are you even worrying about what someone else is doing anyway? So, um, I think that there is some kind of a beauty to to mortality. The beauty of mortality is essentially that you live in the moment, which is something that I think a lot of people who are religious don't do. Like I had mentioned before in my previous videos about people being complacent and things like that. But you live in the moment because every second, if you really think about it, even though time doesn't really exist, but every moment that you have here in the now is the only time. This is the only time that you will have this moment here and now, right now. You might come to the same spot tomorrow. You might still be talking on this camera tomorrow. You might be doing the same thing that you were doing in this moment, in future moments, or in other moments, but it is still only this moment right now. Um, Accomplishments, like we were talking about with the working thing, um, if I don't value working a 60, 70-hour work week as something that's important or good or whatever, it's not something that I really care about, which I feel like most people don't, and they don't really give a shit if you work 60, 70 hours a week, so you probably shouldn't brag about that. But um, yeah, the accomplishments and things that are important to you are individual, and they're not something that has to be done though. And I think people should question too what an accomplishment is, and because pretty much the only accomplishment is having a family, basically, right? Because that means that you're thriving and surviving. You're able to have a lot of children and things like that, and you're able to actually reproduce, which is what's rewarding in nature. But yeah, I think a lot of our accomplishments and our goals and things like that are actually formed and shaped by society, anyways. And you should really reconsider on whether or not that's actually something that's truly important to you, instead of just, is this idea something that came from school or family around me, my culture and society, living in the United States, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Um, yeah, I kind of talked about the satanic thing, but oh yeah, we already talked a lot about that. Um, but yeah, I think that it's important to understand too. A lot of the not like talking about. I've spent a lot of time wasted on video games as well too. I guess we can talk about that, and I can kind of crap on myself a little bit here, but I've spent a lot of time wasted on video games. And when I look back on the time that I've wasted doing that, it's actually kind of incredible. I think it's one thing if you're sick at home, you don't really have much to do. Okay, whatever, you can't really do anything. Like right now, I'm kind of still sick, but I'm feeling better today, so I actually went out to the park and trying to get this done real quick with a couple of videos for you guys, because I know I took like a month off or whatever. But um, really, as you get older, and this is something that I realize more and more too as I'm getting older, um, that you realize how much time. Oh, well, first off, you realize how little time you have. Then you realize more and more so how much time you wasted on things that weren't really important, and it's something that you really should consider. And you really shouldn't be burning bridges with friends and family and things like that, because those are really the people who are the most important to you in life, and that's truly what's going to bring happiness in your life. So, but yeah, there basically doesn't need to be any explanation for life, and there doesn't need to be any reason for anything. Just because you feel like there needs to be a reason or an explanation or a meaning to life doesn't mean that there is a meaning to life.